What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Apartment 113 podcast, where we talk with cool folks in the cannabis and psychedelics industry to learn about their projects and celebrate their successes. My name is Rob Sanchez, and this is episode 31. We're joined today by the founder of Cornucopia Management, Daniel Travagliante. Cornucopia Management provides insight and experience consulting on operation design, cultivation, packaging, standard operating procedures, and much, much more. Daniel has a great background in the space, having cultivated for many years, and he's now sharing that expertise. Find out more at cornucopiamgmt.com and enjoy the show. Daniel, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, yeah, happy to get you on here. I know we bumped into each other at the bar after like day 3 of Benzinga. It's been a long time in the making here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny how those things happen. A guy told me one time, he's like, you may go to one of these conventions and you go and you talk and it's like speed dating, this and that. And it's like the guy that you meet at the bar or shaking hands with when you're getting coffee ends up being one of the best connections that you end up meeting in your whole career. And hopefully this works forward from there.
Right. You got to kind of take those conferences with a grain of salt often and just be like open, right, to the opportunity. I think I'm probably not extroverted enough for some conferences. It's always like hard for me to keep turning and like introducing myself to someone else. But I think I'm getting better with some cannabis practice.
Yeah. Well, the bar helps too. That's where we met.
Yeah, right. It helps to have a common mission, right? We had a goal to get through that line.
Yeah, absolutely. Other than that, it's like I said, I feel like I'm speed dating. It's a tough thing for me to do too. It's a new concept for me.
Right, and it's hard to be like, and I'm not actually interested in that. Like, yeah. Goodbye. Or right. Sometimes you open the conversation and nothing against soil and cocoa core folks, but when I find the consultant who's like reselling cocoa core from out of the country, it's kind of like, all right, our potential connections are few here, man. It's good to meet you, though. Yeah, good to actually see you and meet you too as well, other than April. Yeah, dude. And since then, it sounds like you've been recovering a little bit, but still staying in the cannabis space, man. You're back on your feet and rocking here these last few weeks. Yeah. I went through a little bit of a medical issue. I had to have a couple of discs removed from my neck. We did a full fusion from C5 through 7, so I'm 6 weeks out. Yeah. I feel amazing though. If I could say anything, the second I woke up from surgery, I had relief of tingling and numbness and just so almost immediate difference there.
Oh, immediately. Yeah, immediately. I can sleep again.
Yeah. Wow. I've got some family that is kind of waiting, for a similar surgery that I think is affecting some kind of like lower body stuff in their feet. And like that nerve, like the nerve injuries and the spinal cord stuff is so crazy how much it connects to everything. Yeah.
Well, like the nerve damage was causing the numbness. The problem is if you let it go too long, you lose it. It'll kill your nerve off. So if you're getting that numbness and tingling, you should address it, because if you let it go a year, 2 years, they say you may never ever get it back.
That nerve will atrophy, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, so, crazy.
46. I'm 46 years old. I'm glad I took care of it.
Yep. And still ticking along, man. And with over 25 years of those 46 in cannabis cultivation around the plant, how did your journey with cannabis really get started? If we try to rewind the clock here before Cornucopia.
I would say it takes me right back to when I was 19 or 20. My younger brother is a year younger than me. Back when he was 4, he had a stroke and he is paralyzed on his right side. And his hand stays curled up all the time, along with his foot, I should say, on that right side. And we grew up in a dare, was drugs are bad, and that late 80s that,
sir.
You take it to heart. Yeah, I don't want to end up beating my wife with a frying pan or robbing banks or something. So,
or your brain is just a frying pan with a cooking egg.
Right. So I never did anything, honest to God. I never smoked a cigarette, never drank alcohol. I was straight edge through high school. And
Okay. Yeah.
when I was 18, I started construction and saw people who did smoke and always wondered, like, wow, they seem to be successful. And then when I
Kind
was
of
20,
challenge some assumptions a little
it
bit
did.
there.
It
Yeah.
absolutely did. And then when I was 20, Jimmy came to my house and he was high and I was so mad at him. I remember being like, what are you doing to yourself? Blah, 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 blah. And
Yeah.
he was like, watch this. And he took his hand and he opened it up and he laid it palm down flat on the table.
Wow.
First time I'd ever seen that in my
Yeah.
life that I could remember. And I realized it was medicine. Within probably a month, I was like, hey, let me hit that. Let me see what that's about. Uh,
So he
and
really got some serious physical relief just from consuming or from from treating himself. Huh? He kind of found it.
oh, absolutely. Yeah, the muscles would relax for him.
Yeah.
He could, and like I said, it was just something I had never seen. He was amazed that he could do it. I bet you, I was always scared of the law as well. We're talking, this is
Yeah.
1996 or 7. Wasn't
Everything's
a lot
still
of grow
pretty
stores
unforgivable.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't go to grow stores. I mixed my own soils. I bought seeds. Matter of fact, my first seeds, I smuggled them back from Vancouver, Canada,
Wow.
down my pants on the airplane.
Oh man. They came into the country with respect and self-esteem.
They did, and I didn't want to have to do that again, so I immediately started breeding more, and I had always had a bucket load of seeds, and
Was it more of a desire to just keep things concise and in-house that led you to breeding, or was there an interest in breeding and kind of finding different cultivars?
I actually read my first high time shortly after that, and I realized the differences between the different varieties and
I
strains and
see.
how it could be used. And it's like, oh wow, I'm going to do this for Jimmy. I'm going to
Yeah,
breed
it's
Jimmy
just so
something.
much deeper. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then in 2009, I was 32 years old. My dad got melanoma, and I took some time off. There was a TV program of a fellow about my age saying this is all he had ever done in his life, and I was like, why can't that be me? So
It was a different grower or cultivator.
yeah, it was a CNN program, and the dude was from California, where it was like they passed in '95 or '6 when he was like 17, and
So
he
it's
just
kind of
entered.
showing it.
Yeah, he's like, wow, this is all I've ever known since I was 17. He was a cannabis grower, and I was like, well, I've been growing 10 years at that time for myself. I'm like, I
Right.
can do this, so I did.
Kind of open up the vision, the plan there from just personal growing or kind of growing for family and friends to actually lean into the industry, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I immediately started seeking it out and realized it was only a state away. Did the math on the plant numbers and the patient numbers and said, I think I can do this. And I came up here and I met people at patient caregiver meetings that would be held at like a library. And a guy would ask, who's here as a patient? Someone would raise their hand and he'd say, who's here as a caregiver? They would raise their hand and they say, go ahead, meet.
Let the speed dating begin.
Yeah, yeah. And then sometimes people had questions like, hey, how do I get rid of thrips? And I would say something like, well, thrips live in the soil. You should use beneficial nematodes because it's organic and they eat the thrips from the inside out and you'll never blah, blah, blah. And once you answer enough questions, people...
Old Dr. Green Thumb over here. Yep, they
Yeah.
find you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I sold my house, quit my job, and moved to Michigan.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and for a little while, I was actually considering a move to Michigan for the home plant counts and the industry there as well. The software side of the cannabis industry had me here in Las Vegas. This is where 365 Cannabis was originally located. We had an office here. And before COVID, believe it or not, they were making people move for work in software. And then about a year later, right, everyone in the world learned about remote work.
Yeah, like that new thing.
Yeah, but I've been down here in Vegas since then, and we do have some grow laws, but not as good as as Michigan and some of the other states that came on a little more recently. In Nevada, you have to have your medical card, and you have to be cultivating a strain or a cultivar that's not found within 25 miles of you. So
Oh,
you've got to be kind of selective in what you're growing. But when it comes to, custom pheno hunting and breeding, it's easy to diverge from something that maybe you can find 25 miles. So a lot of people are, growing like variants of strains or like just small like phenos of maybe something more common.
That's cool. That's cool. I can see that happening. Michigan was a really weird market at first. You know, it was kind of like the Wild West where they didn't have anything commercial, so us caregivers were the ones that fed the market initially. Then they brought in, you know, we voted for it, it passed, and now they have enough stores, enough cultivators, enough everybody that they said, oh, you shouldn't have the ability to sell anymore. We've established it for
so they
you.
actually rolled it back, huh?
They took it back. So it went from me being able to, like, I was allowed to grow 12 plants per patient. And on a 4-month rotation, that was 3 plants each month through each stage of life.
Right.
So I would harvest 3 plants per patient for each patient each month. And if they only wanted an ounce or two, I had their permission that I could sell it, you know, at the dispensaries or wherever, because I had costs involved. And then once they took that, it's like you're only allowed to deal with your patients, which is great. But at the end of the day, 5 patients is very tough to make a living from, especially when you have patients that are on like disability and stuff. We had a patient who was gay bashed and beat in the head with a brick, and he was on disability making $1,000 a month. Oh, how do you even charge these people?
Yeah, man.
You can't.
Right.
You know, we're helping patients here. I was breeding
so one
for
of your 5
ailments.
Yeah, like, and then 1, 2, or even all of your 5 patients are coming from situations like that. That's not the time to turn a profit.
Yeah, we don't green gouge those people.
Yeah, it's very difficult to do that when you just want to help, or, you know, allow someone to cut some pain, or, you know, feel a little happier about the situation. I think that's difficult to see. I didn't know that it had rolled back from that. So at this point, then you can still caretake, but only those patients can buy from you.
Correct.
So then recuperating your own costs in that process gets to be kind of a
very, very much a mouse on a wheel. You are just treading water. We went from being a business and being self-employed and trying to do something good, you know, for everybody, to now I feel bad. Like, it's like you have so many more choices at the dispensary. They're roughly around the same prices and everything involved that, excuse me, I'm almost doing a disservice to you, you know. It's not helping me at all anymore, you know, because I'm at a stage of life where I have to keep moving forward. I want to be something too someday.
Do you think that the caregiving kind of model is going to phase out then because of the changes? That it's not really possible at a small scale anymore, and that's maybe the intent, or it's kind of what they wanted to happen? Yes,
I do. And along with recreational, anybody that's adult is allowed to grow 12 plants. So you can have some, your neighbor can have some. The medical mark, you know, there's not even, I don't even have a medical card anymore because I'm a grown man that already has, I can have 12 plants no matter what. Right. So it's not worth it for me to pay the money. It's not, you know, it's not feasible. But I will tell you, there's a large discrepancy in the quality of medicine I'll call it all medicine. But in terms of cleanliness, recreational is like, I think it's like 10,000, whatever it is, CFUs, whatever the units are. Of cleanliness, and with recreational it's 100,000. You know, wow. So I don't really, you know, I think it all should be at 10,000. I really, you know, in terms of cleanliness, I think that should be first and foremost.
Yeah, and Michigan was having some shenanigans with their lab testing. I think there was some dispensaries reporting like 40% THC on some flower, where
think about that.
It would be like dusty, like pieces of salt falling off of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could see if a trichome is attached or not. But I mean, think about that, Matt. If you understand the way I understand the testing, is it's a 1 gram sample, and if 40% of that was cannabinoids, then 400 milligrams would be would be the 40%. Think about that. So you have a bud that's a 1 gram bud that you shove into your bowl or whatever, and 40% of that's going to burn up at 200 or 180 degrees, whatever the math is at that, you know, as soon as you touch it with a lighter. Yeah. I don't believe it. I had a test result at 31.3% one time, and I still had to question myself.
Put it on the wall.
Yeah, I was very proud of it, and it really did me well. You know, but yeah, it was funny. That happened to be the very first test that I used that company for. I did come back for more subsequently, and always stayed in the 25 to 28% range after that.
Interesting.
So I don't know if I, you know, met that matter of a plus or negative of a window there or whatever, but that's always seemed to be the very first test result turned out that way.
Right. Because in the test, there's like I might mess this up. It's like the COQ.
A COA, certificate of authenticity.
And then there's like the level of, or it's like there's a threshold of the amount that they can't have more of. And then there's like so much more above that. I want to say it was something else. Like it was part of the COA though. But
Yeah,
it was a way to measure like aspergillus and measure essentially the microbiologicals and things that are returned in lab results.
Right. Yeah, I try to preach cleanliness over everything. It sucks that we have an industry that preaches so much THC numbers. People don't understand the way that the terpenes and flavonoids impart, the medicines that, when you have something that's testing at 3 or 4% terpenes, that that flavor sticks with you all the way to the end, aside from the benefits from it, versus something that just tests high and tastes like crap.
Yeah, yeah. And as far as cleanliness goes, man, I tell people about cultivating. It was like combining like a full like building kind of janitorial position along with some elements of construction and then horticulture all smashed into like a room or into a narrow hallway,
Yeah,
you're
like
partially playing electrician, you're playing scientist, you get digging into everything, right?
absolutely. Yeah, you really need to if you're a new person starting from scratch, if you put in the planning now, it will save you so much later. You get in the right HVAC with the right units. Get in the right everything involved. Have it all planned out that you're setting yourself up for success, because you skimp on one little thing and you just think of the damage that it can cause later. To lose a third or a half of a harvest due to something stupid because you don't want to pay people to wipe your surfaces down. Yeah. Or just buy a machine that's nebulizes hydrogen peroxide or something like that
right.
Save on costs.
Yeah, man. And one of the things the cleaning that I had to do was your typical things, but the two cleaning acts I hated the most, I think one is maybe solved in cultivation nowadays, and that's cleaning the lenses on the HPS lights. So we had to take down the like glass lenses off the lights, flip them over on some sawhorses, and clean them all out, the top and the bottoms, basically from getting smudged and hit in flour, and just trying to maximize the amount of lumens we were giving the canopy. We were working on a pretty slim budget at this first grow, so the owner at that time was like just cracking the whip on cleaning those lenses all the time. And man, if you so much as bent that plate glass like the wrong direction, it would just like explode in glass shards.
I used to take mine down. I used to take mine down, and I would set it like on the edge of my tennis shoe by my toe. And so I could wipe Windex and clean it down. I'd have it down onto the ground, because I would clean every month, and then have like a 3 to 4 day window where I wouldn't put anything back into the flower room. I have that clean up, have them a couple of days to sanitize. Going. And I more than once it slipped off my toe, and the corner hits just right, and it just shatters.
It's a whole nother cleaning problem. I mean, it doesn't break into like 5 pieces of glass. It's like 5,000 little shards of glass. Just like
absolutely tempered glass. I'll tell you, I have in the last year and a half or better, through talking with people, I have never used them myself, but I have quickly become a fan of the LED lights these days.
It's taken the grow world fully. Man. There's not a reason really to let it be. I think when I first started, there was concern about LEDs not being powerful enough, or maybe not hitting the full spectrum, or not varying enough. But now these companies are just on the ball with it, man. There's some excellent options.
Oh, I represent a company. We work with a light recipe. No different than a soil recipe. If you're trying to coax out certain cannabinoids or certain parts of that plant grown a certain way, you do that light recipe now. And aside from the 5-year warranties, the lenses on them that you don't need to be right up on the plants anymore, you can. Right. They got lenses where you can be a little farther away that will dial in that light.
I've seen TSR Grow has like a pretty cool solution that will like emulate weather over your canopy, even like cloud change and sunrise, and just it's quite a different game there.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said about the efficiency, in terms of you're not blasting your little clones with just too much light. Even your flowering plants, to have it right up down them. That heat combined with that light spectrum from 6 or 8 inches away from a high pressure sodium light is far different. Yeah, yeah. But I do like indoor. I've grown one outdoor plant in my whole life. Crazy enough. Yeah,
how did that one plant turn out for you?
It's so funny. When you grow indoors, you are Mother Nature. It's 70 and sunny every day of the week.
If you want water, everything. You create water.
Yeah, So I had this outdoor plant. I ended up harvesting it last year, and at the same time, I was redoing the interior of this small boat that was given to me. So I just hung it in my barn. And all winter long, this thing just hung there, and I would just walk over to this plant, just rip off a nug, shove it in my bowl, and it was my own personal supply out in the barn all
just
winter long.
Just let it sit there and slow dry.
Yeah, and then at the end of spring started, and I threw it in a bonfire because it's kind
of past its prime.
Yeah, way past, hanging in the air like that for a full winter, it was less than premier.
I can imagine. Yeah, I can imagine.
But
there's so much that can. When you're growing like that and you have the excess, it's nice to be able to just grab a bud, try some smoke at different phases, pull some off the dry rack or before cure. You could start to see some of the differences there too. But you also find that sweet spot, maybe like 2 months of curing, that it's just perfect, right? Right before kind of things start going to the more sedative stage, your cannabinoids are almost maxed out. I think that the industry right now has to sell flower well before that, unfortunately.
Really? Is that what you believe? Like, I feel like everywhere I hear, I just read an article even today, it was talking about Oklahoma, and it was saying that, now I probably maybe a bad example here, but Oklahoma had 64 times more cannabis than what can be consumed. It was an article about how it is feeding the black market and stuff.
Wow.
And there's a lot of product up here in Michigan as well. We're in a hugely flooded market. We're right on the verge of Croptober.
Had the same kind of issues going on in Michigan.
Yeah, and I feel like, man, there's a lot that probably sits around for those couple of months, or better.
And can cure out. That's a good point. Yeah, but can folks give them the attention it needs to keep that humidity right and give it that slow cure, or are they just dealing with weight that's going to get moldy? In Oklahoma, it was. I wish these laws were how it was in Missouri, where I just sent the license application. Because if you had $3,000 and you were partnered with a resident in Oklahoma, welcome to the cannabis industry.
Yeah.
Here's your license. It's beautiful. It's pretty great, but also we saw the side effects, which were just a massive overpopulation of licenses. And I think a lot of businesses are trying to ride that out right now. You got to find your quality, your differentiator, and then start competing with your, all the folks down the street, all the people in your town that are doing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's funny how in those situations where the people, even where it's not even a lottery, where they actually apply, it's either A, they have a lot of money and they can afford to make a few mistakes and tread water throughout it, or B, they have a tremendous amount of experience to where they're not going to make the mistakes and their good product is going to help them tread water and keep throughout that.
Yeah, right. Oh, and to go back, so the analytical chemistry folks don't give me a hard time here. When I was talking about LOQ, I just did a quick look here. It was the limit of quantization or the limit of detection, LOD. And that's basically like how much aspergillus does there have to be for like modern technology to detect it, or for gas chromatography to find it, that kind of thing. So that is different on like every microbiological or every bacteria or element that's being searched for. And that's kind of what the test results are measured against as well. There's like this small amount of the product that actually can't be measured anyways, just because we don't have the tech to do it, or maybe those lab tests are more expensive.
Wow, that's good information. I like that.
Yeah, it's fun. The lab testing side of stuff has been awesome, man. Seeing as it's really helping consumers, at least those that are interested in diving deeper. You can look into it and see sometimes not only do you have 3% terpenes, but, caryophyllene the dominant, or linalool is the secondary, and you can start to find the effects of those terpenes a little bit more and not rely on the THC or the branding and things like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think, educating the consumer is where this industry really needs to start catching up to how the growing and how the testing has gone. Like, ever since the Farm Bill, we've really come leaps and bounds in discovering various cannabinoids, synthetic, all the above, the Delta 8s, the Delta 10s, and everything else.
Yeah, right.
We're just learning science so fast right now, and I don't even know if we're capable of quantifying the effects. If somebody can actually say that, yeah, I had a lot of pinene and it really helped my knees, or
yeah, it's very difficult to do that. It's more like, okay, if you have a lot of pinene, like you're probably going to experience these flavors, and the effects of the high may have these characteristics, but it's pretty difficult to draw like a solid correlation the way medicine would want, or pharmaceutical medicine would want to see. It's all in the entourage effect and those like 400 plus compounds all coming together.
Yeah, I envision the next level of the future of cannabis being so much as the wine industry of these days, or where these ganjiers are really bringing out the nuances and understanding just what these the little I've always said, like, when I've talked to my patients, what I do is, like, we're all provided the genetics aside from breeders or whatever, but everybody's given the genetics. It's almost like people in the Olympics who can run the 100-yard dash. Everybody does it in 10 seconds or whatever. It's those people who pay attention, or those little micro things that put them ahead that thousandth of a second. Those are the ones
that little bit of dedication.
That's right. Because we're all blessed with the genetics. You can go out there and you can order a diesel or any one of these legacy strains. That aren't.
You got to be able to drive it.
Yeah. One of the growers that I knew used to have a competition. He's out of Oklahoma, where he would have the same genetics. He would give the same clone to 21 different people for a competition, and you would be an aquaponics guy, or you would be hydro, or you'd be your own soil.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then they'd have the competition, and they would test it all, and some tested at 12%, some tested at 24%, some was with this terpenes, and everybody, doing their own thing was making it out of the same exact genetics.
It just shows like the possibilities there. It's just such a wide range of phenos that can come out of that, and to hone out what you want or try to call out one specific one is just takes consistency, environmental control, and then like you said, maybe aquaponics is the only way to nurse out like a certain element, or to a certain characteristic of the plant.
And I like the fact that you just said consistency. When I've always talked to people, it's like, I'll give you the average of a 8-week lifespan in the flowering range. Okay, so look at that as that was your life. Break your life as if you lived 80. You mess up 1 week, it's like taking 10 years off of your life.
Yeah, man, you missed your 20s.
You did. You very well did. So if something happened, where there was an accident, you didn't have some level of redundancy throughout your process. Maybe a filter got clogged. Maybe a heat pump happened, and all of a sudden you boiled everything in your hydroponic setup. I don't know what.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah, good night. You don't make mistakes, and that's not even a week's mistake there. But yeah, 1 week of a mess up of nutrients or could really cost you,
Right. Yeah, it's so important there. And before we dig into the cultivation side and some of those nutrient conversations, I was going to ask you this question that's been a recurring theme on the show so far, and that's when it comes to cannabis education, who or what do you think is responsible for providing that education to the consumer? Would you see that weight on the businesses, or is that actually part of it needs to be part of the consumer's like goals and initiatives as well?
Wow, that's a great question. I do think, people in medicine or looking for medicine are a lot more keen to try to gain that education.
They're coming at it already with a therapeutic kind of
mindset. They're trying to alleviate an ailment, but people on the recreational, I believe that price rules the world.
Just trying to grab grab a bag and
grab a bag,
hang out tonight.
Head on down the road. Maybe I can get some cheap carts or whatever the case may be. Where none of these things come into play. You want to talk distillates, and we're not even talking flavor. That's already imparted. We're not even. Everybody knows it's not even the same buzz as a piece of flower.
That's the most like commoditized way to consume cannabis. I think it's like purely a commodity at that point, almost the way like a electricity or like something else is. Like you just got cannabis.
Yeah, but I think the vertically integrated people who are able to control the process all the way through are able to fit that education into their budgets and their websites, even if it's nothing more than linking a particular podcast or linking
just
a particular
tying
article.
things together.
Yeah, just come learn about our strain. Come learn about what we're trying to do. If they're breeding for a specific ailment, or hey, this is the next sativa that's great for listening to music at concerts. Well, it could simply be that.
Right. So it kind of gives them the opportunity to build that community up around their business too, because that full vertical nature lets them control everything, obviously, but it's easy to forget like how much of that control falls outside of cultivators' hands in the industry now. If they have to sell to a different distributor who then maybe uses half the product as flower and then sells even the other half on to be extracted, like it's just so far out of the cultivator's hands at sometimes that the supply chain itself can kind of wreck your product just with bad storage or bad timing and all of that.
Yeah, and I think it's really overwhelming for a lot of people sometimes to go to a dispensary. I read an article, I should say, about a brilliant guy. I can't even tell you where I read it from years ago, but he owned a dispensary and he had two different color baskets, blue and red. Blue, you walked in, grabbed a blue one, it meant that you knew what you were talking about. You could shop around, do whatever.
Like kind of place yourself.
Yep, and the red one was like, I could use a little bit of help, I went in to buy a cart just a couple weeks ago. I don't really do them, but I was traveling and stuff. It was just much more convenient. And
I was something to be said about traveling, man. I will give you that one. When you're traveling and you just need something quick and you don't have a piece or even don't have the time to find the lighter, you can't argue with the cart. Or maybe an edible fits in that situation too, but for that kind of instant gratification, man, they're great for that.
Yeah. I mean, I prefer, obviously, the other. I was in a setting where I didn't have that ability. I wasn't flying or anything, but I was certainly in a setting where I didn't have ability to stay calm.
Yes, or go back to the common ritual.
Yeah. Also, too, with my smoking, my surgery, I was not allowed to smoke.
Okay.
He told me afterwards, and I trust my surgeon more than anything. He was a wonderful guy, very, very educated. Smoking carries carbon monoxide, which is no good for blood flow and your oxygen. No oxygen in your blood, I should say. He told me I can vape. I can eat medibles. He was not against the cannabis whatsoever, just against the smoking of the cannabis.
Actual combustion.
Yep.
I see.
So
nice. So
I was
have
doing
you found it kind of
well.
So even before that, you switched over to vapes a little bit?
Yeah, just prior to, so that I went in there, quote unquote, clean. I didn't have any, carbon monoxide in my blood. Let my bones have the best opportunity to heal. And I just went back to flower about a day or two ago because I'm at 6 weeks now. My bones should be pretty healed. It's about.
Were you missing flower?
Oh yeah, especially because I have it here and I'm looking at it all the time, and I can open a jar and be like, oh, it's beautiful. I want some.
Okay, high quality flower I miss and still feel that longing for, but kind of like that mid-shelf level of flower here in Vegas that I can find often is just really not worth it for the most part. I've been on a concentrate kick for maybe 2 years now, where flower is more of a treat. If I can find a really high terpene flower or like something that I haven't tried before, if I'm trying to treat myself from the top shelf, I'll take that. But it hasn't been my like daily driver at this point. And I tried to take a bong rip the other day. A few episodes back, I mentioned it. Dude, I think my lungs are different, man, because I used to kill the bong. And I was coughing so hard, like holding on to the sink, like, oh, man.
Oh, yeah, you got a good drool on and everything, huh?
Dude, it was just like, I'm glad there was no one else here.
Yeah, you had said you're a hash man. You said you like to make the water hash.
Yeah, definitely. That's like kind of where I got started. And my first role in the cannabis industry, I had come from just basically 5-gallon bucket grows in a closet in my like college place of living. And my first roll was water hash and bubble hash using like those different micron of bags, just working
Bubble
down.
bags. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, working down to your fine beach sand. And man, I actually had never done that before and then I had the job to make it. And I still have to give a lot of credit to the owner of that place to just let me go in there with passion and interest and figure out how to do it, because we had a few batches that were pretty rough on cost as far as what went in and what came out. But we eventually had a pretty nice product kind of going through the sieves.
Really? Yeah. How did you like holding up your 25 bag for about an hour to let it drain when you were making it by yourself at home?
Yeah, right. You're just hanging it, trying to let it spin, switching arms.
Yeah. Trying to get some centrifugal force. My favorite's the 73. That's my favorite. I have 73 into 120. But yeah, we used to make, my wife and I would make hash in 32-gallon, our bubble bags were 32-gallon bubble bags.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And oh man, yeah, we would start with
huge barrels.
Four Walmart bags of fresh frozen trim, where it was fresh off the plant. We'd freeze it right away so that none of your leaf was dried. We didn't want to beat up the leaves. I used to only do one run. I know I could have done 2 runs, but I wasn't about quantity. I was about quality.
Just working on that perfection. If you do a second run, we would do additional runs, but we would keep them separate, really, so that we could still sell that first run as that top shelf product.
Yeah. Oh, when like you said, it looks like that beautiful grains of sand after it's all dried out and chopped up.
It's pretty great seeing that through. Yeah. For those out there who may be dabbling in home cultivation or starting to take those steps in providing for yourself, like bubble hash is really the next thing to accomplish after you've gotten through your dry and cure.
Yeah, you really got to utilize all of your product. I talk to some home growers every now and then, and they're like, "Oh, well, you think I ought to trim the bottom third of my plant and try to put all that energy up to the top like you guys do?" And it's like, nope, I don't at all. I don't. I think let that plant grow. You want as much of them popcorn nuggets, and unless you're selling it and you're trying to be Johnny, we're putting it out there, the biggest buds ever. And I don't like big buds. I grow golf balls, not footballs. Screw that mold. Yeah.
I was going to say, at a certain point, you're asking for it, aren't you?
Right. And it's a lot of the outdoor growers that I hear say that. We got these huge buds, and my answer is like here in Michigan, you get that dew on the buds every morning in this time of year. And a lot of times it doesn't evaporate faster than the plant can grow when it's just putting it out there at, 4 to 6 weeks of flowering. And inevitably, you trap that moisture in there. I really, you hear these Oregon growers also too, where they, like I said earlier, you plan on losing 20% to mold, or you just plan on it because it grows so fast and the moisture is there. We've got such a fast season here in Michigan.
Yeah, right. And in Michigan, you have one season naturally outdoors before everything's inside. Yeah.
And I almost, I can't wait to see the shift in everything once we go federally legal and stuff, because I really think that states like Arizona, obviously the Sunshine State of California, all these like outdoor, like they get sun all the time. Arizona's probably a bad example. It's probably pretty tough to handle the heat and monitor that, but you see what I'm getting at, these longer days, the much using the sun more efficiently.
They get that benefit.
Yeah, I can really see that, and then I can also see maybe a shift where the outdoor stuff stays going towards these concentrates and those types of things, because I just find it hard to, I may get chomped on by the outdoor guys out there. We provide clean product. I know you do, but it's just too hard. Mother Nature doesn't like anybody. You can't control the guys pollen next to you. You can't control bugs. I love the organic guys that are difficult. Like, "Hey man, I got ladybugs. My ladybugs are taking care of this." And my next question is like, all ladybugs poop. Do you really want? I mean, I don't know, put that much any better to you. A big old grasshopper turd or something on your stuff. I'm really not a huge fan of any of that.
Yeah, outdoors is really hard to justify that or to prove that. I think that the quality or the safety, it's like, I think that you want outdoor cannabis to work so much because it's like that's the natural thing. It feels
Green.
like that's where the
Yeah.
plant belongs, right? Under the
Yeah.
sun, getting that
Yeah.
UV light, the wind and the environment. And I mean, for certain areas in the world, like the outdoor flower grown there is phenomenal. But in others, you know, like Oklahoma, for example, they got hit with like a grasshopper plague, like a dust storm, a bunch of other stuff. That's not great for outdoor cannabis. It doesn't matter how like dedicated you are as a grower or the kind of knowledge you're bringing to your grow. Just those environmental variables are hard to balance.
Right.
When an indoor guy gets to, as you said, kind of play God and really control like the lay of the land. That being said, man, on the outdoor flower side, I found like a higher terpene content, kind of like a waxier kind of feel to the flower. I think I actually prefer outdoor, but it's hard to find good outdoor. And it's kind of hard to find good indoor too, depending on which markets you're in. But yeah, I think that eventually I'd want to lean towards outdoor markets more, or find those farms that you could trust. But I think to get that trust, lab testing is going to have to start getting even more expansive or more intrusive.
Do you think, and the people that you've talked to and you've met throughout the industry in all of your time, do you think we're going to come a day where the customers are actually, you know, we're going to demand like the better cannabis? Like we don't want the mass produced crap.
Yeah, dude, you know? I don't understand why it's taken so long for that anyways, because I mean, in the old days, if someone sold you crap on the streets and then other people knew that guy, it was kind of like, hey man, you don't understand what Travis sold me. It was brutal. He gave us full price for this stuff from, you know, 5 states away. Right. That guy gets cut out of the circle, right? You don't buy like crap, or like, I don't know. There was kind of more of a community approach towards quality, but maybe it wasn't like that everywhere. It kind of depends on your buddies or on your circle there. But I think that there's definitely not a pushback right now. It's kind of, from a recreational standpoint, people just want it, and they have a good time with it. They can hang out, relax at the end of the day. There's like all this passion and this kind of nerding out about cannabis kind of it is not necessarily over their head. It's just they're not interested. It's just like
find they don't care.
Alluring.
It goes back to my patience about getting it tested. I think price at the end of the day rules the world. If it works, if I got sleepy and I was able to sleep that night, it works. I think that's all that, you know, if it works, that's all they care. But
right. And that's like where you could watch a Marvel movie, you know, and kind of enjoy it without knowing anything about the characters. But then I try to tell you all about the X-Men in like issue number 26 and Jerry Dugan's recent comic book. And it's just like, okay, like that's all great, but like you only care about that if you're into the niche or into that part of the community. And convincing more people to take that jump is sort of the $1 million question, right? Like how do you connect to consumers that way and show them, you know, what's possible? I think cultivating in the house is a really good way to start that, because you kind of see the magic of the plant or get involved in it in your home.
Yeah, absolutely. And doing things for yourself is no different than you're growing your own tomatoes and making your own sauce or any of those things, you know, that people, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of the knowledge that maybe you have to read about or it has to be handed down. But at the end of the day, the gratification that you get inside by providing for yourself and knowing that you can provide for yourself, you don't have to rely upon anybody, has to supersede all of that, especially when it comes to medicine.
Yeah, that's a really good point, man. Yeah, it's that satisfaction of smoking your own plant that you watched all the way from that little seedling. You know, it's there's not really anything beating that. That's like sitting down to the lasagna that you made the red sauce for.
Yeah, you talk seeds. It's funny. I always talk seeds as one of my just things that I have always been so excited about. You know, I've always been just fascinated that a tomato has 1,000 seeds inside of it. And each one of those seeds can produce a plant that produces another 40 pounds of food. And you do the math on that.
All with seeds.
Yep. And whether it be a cannabis plant that can, you get 1,000 seeds on there and you can provide medicine for an entire village. Or, but seeds are just, they've all, the way they live from an animal that can eat them and be shat out, 3,000 miles away and still grow. I've always loved seeds, man. Not in my medicine, but I've always loved seeds.
Yeah, dude. And seeds are definitely kind of like early man's approach towards cannabis, or some of the draw there like was in the seed itself and eating them, and like actually being a seeding plant. So it's kind of interesting in some of that too.
Yeah, and it's
So
weird because now I'm against it. I'm like all about clones. I want you to do you shouldn't
keep
start out
that.
with seeds and
Yeah, get your genetics. Get the
yeah. Don't ruin
get
your
that
brain
solid.
with something that's just trying for the first time.
Yeah, yeah. So on the cornucopia management side, you're offering consulting for cultivation really from beginning to end, or anywhere
Yep.
along that process, huh?
Anywhere in between. I'll use cultivation as an example. I've got relationships with staffing companies, multiple lighting companies, design companies, security companies, anything, equipment, anything you can think of cultivation wise, tissue culture labs or tissue culture clones on how to teach you how to do your own. Then you get to like the dispensary people. I can help dispensaries with applications and security and design. I have a design team that I work with. I can help them
Nice.
with payment plans and loyalty programs. All kinds of vape companies, pre-roll companies. I can help with pre-roll machines, gummy machines, trimming machines, packaging, labeling. I've got relationships, people with living walls, vertical grows. Might be a patented CO2 delivery system, even in an outdoor environment.
Nice. So
Could be,
really helping to kind of unite some of this knowledge
sure.
that's out there, but
Yeah.
bringing it down to the clients or down to folks who are maybe getting started and don't have
Or,
that
or maybe
network
they're
or the
even already
time.
established. Yep, they utilize my network, saves them time. They may come with a problem, like we talked about the lights. They might want to do a lighting upgrade, and I'll
Yeah.
explain, the benefits of the utilizing the electricity much more efficient. And then I will do a nice introduction, and
So then you can come in as the fixer. I
that's
always,
what I like to be.
yeah, on the software side as a consultant, I always like to be the fixer too, or the fixer or the finisher, man, or both if you can be. But it's like the problem's already been made. You can come and assess the playing field to kind of start organizing things, developing a process, laying out some knowledge. That's always good to
Yeah,
correct a
providing
system.
that service, no different than growing and providing a product that somebody enjoys and they come back for more. Or if you make food for a living and you provide a product, when you provide a service for somebody, they appreciate it. You've brought value to the equation. Sometimes it's as simple as that.
And are you working in all states right now, or is there a regional focus for you?
We're everywhere. I actually even have a fellow that I would let represent me who lives in South Africa right now. We can go anywhere. Most of these companies that I deal with are international. They've been in 30 countries around the world. If they need applications wrote or design plans implemented, they're already there. I certainly am not, but I do have all the relationships with people that are everywhere that we can make something happen anywhere in the world.
That's awesome. And I can see the imagery here, but I'll ask anyways. And the cornucopia branding, it is the idea to bring that cornucopia of skills and knowledge?
Yes, sir. That's exactly what we brought it to. I want to be that all-in-one, all-encompassing. You maybe not be a complete startup. Startup would be great. If you're starting from scratch, what a wonderful journey that could be to go from, designing your grow, whether even the way, if you're going to go vertical or you're going to be hydro or soil or outdoor, all the way through packaging and branding, dispensary, all of the above to create that it would be an awesome journey. But also to fix a problem in the middle. It could be simple as staffing. I need 20 trimmers tomorrow. We'll get them for you.
Right. Right. Because sometimes that is it takes people to move the industry. And if you don't have those either, you're going to be spending some long nights trimming.
Yeah. But yeah, to be able to be that one-stop shop that, I want to be able to solve that problem for you and create that service, create that value, save you some money in the same, matter.
Right. And kind of keep pushing the cannabis industry forward, right?
Yeah, and psychedelics will be the next one. I know that's part of what you do too. I really believe that that's the next, just like cannabis was 20-something years ago.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how that's going to roll out. I think Psychedelia is already taking a different path than cannabis, as it's doing its best to stay away from CPGs, from being a consumer packaged good and being a recreational product. They're trying very hard to stay on the pharmaceutical side and in the therapeutical in the therapy kind of niche or vertical. So I think that's the initial focus, but that was the initial focus for cannabis too. So it's kind of hard to see how it couldn't evolve to like a rec mushroom microdosing kind of laws eventually. But as a psychonaut, as someone that's dabbled maybe even too much in psychedelics at times, I would kind of worry, I think, about just the general public with accessibility to psychedelics because of how altering it can be. Like a bad high can be like a bad evening for you, but like a bad trip could be like a long time. It could really linger. It could mess you up and kind of pick up some anchors and drop them in weird places in your mind that you gotta clear the table again after that. And I mean, I've heard some horror stories of folks having to like kind of retire from things for a little while to kind of settle again, for lack of better words, after like a strong acid trip or something. So there's some concern there for abuse. But I think that you could counter that argument because, I mean, we sell vodka at how many stores across the country, and there's a serious potential for abuse there if you were to drink the entire bottle daily. So It's like the same argument.
Yeah, I've always, and once again, somewhat been controversial, I should say, in conversation with people, but I am a proponent of all drugs. I honestly don't
kind
think
of that libertarian perspective. Right?
Absolutely libertarian perspective. Yes, all drugs were medicines before they were abused by humans. I think everything in this world comes down to human responsibility. I know it's a very tough thing to grasp, and people don't have that a lot of times. And to place the rest of the public in possible harm's way for someone who doesn't have that self-control.
Right.
I'll entertain that. Well, we can talk. I'm very understanding to that point of view.
And that's an unfortunate thing with a minority controlling the masses. And that happens like sociopolitically and all kinds of things. But that's a good example, right? If there's a small minority of people that would abuse psychedelics, it would have me worried enough that I would be like kind of backing some kind of structure or tracking that just to help those few people, even though maybe the vast majority of folks could use responsibly or, microdose and feel better. And never absolutely. Come back to the thing.
Yeah, you want to. I mean, you're trying to do the math there. You're going to have 100,000 people that are finding relief and only 3 or 4 that are not. It's like where's the benefits lie, and do you?
Give and take kind of thing.
Yeah, understandable. But I like it. I'm for it. I can't wait to see what the industry moves forward with.
Yes, sir. Are there any conferences on your agenda here towards the end of the year? For Cornucopia?
Absolutely. I will definitely be at MJ BizCon. Most of the people that I represent will be out there. A couple of them are having after parties. I'm going to try to make sure that I can make it to some of their facilities that are in Vegas there.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
So I will definitely be there.
Sweet. Oh, looking forward to meeting you down here and making the rounds. If you get in here a little early, you can let me know.
I will absolutely do that. Absolutely.
And in the meantime, Daniel, it's been awesome talking with you. Where can our listeners find more about you and Cornucopia Management?
Well, I don't do social media a whole lot. I am obviously on LinkedIn for work, but other than that, hit me up on my website. I'd be happy to talk to somebody. Always looking to see how I could help somebody. But my website, Cornucopia Management, would be the best way.
Hey, excellent, man. Yeah, thanks for jumping on the show, and I'm sure we'll revisit this again. There sounds like there's plenty for us to talk about.
Yeah, I'm sure we can do that, and I appreciate everything you've done, man.
Thank you for listening to the Apartment 113 podcast. For more information about the show, along with our services and courses, visit apt113.com. We offer cannabis software product management, cannabis education courses, and freelance writing. With over a decade of experience in the cannabis industry, Apartment 113 is here to help.